So these are the services we had covered so far: VPC, EC2, IAM, S3, Route 53. Actually, these are the most important services that we covered within AWS. Actually, these are the services that you are definitely going to work with. When you work with AWS infrastructure, you are going to work with these services a lot. Other services also, but they are not as popular as the other ones, but still being used by many companies, most of the companies that uses AWS. SCS is one service that we had learned yesterday. It is a SMTP server. When you want to send out an email, maybe you want to send out the email from your web application, maybe from your software, or maybe from your email client. From different places you want to send out email. So in such situations, whenever you want to send out an email, you need a SMTP server. That is something mandatory for anybody in the world who want to send out an email. It has to relay through an SMTP server. So with the SCS service of AWS, what you can actually do is you can use the SMTP server or SCS server as your SMTP to relay your emails to the outside world. So in real time, why the SCS typically, I mean, when you work in a real time world, why you would want to use SCS for? Mostly for sending out emails from your mail client or from your mail account. Typically, you will not use SES. That is not the general purpose of SES. But sometime you want to send out an email from your web application, right? Your company is managing a software, and that software want to send out email based on the requirement. For example, somebody want to log into the system and maybe they forgot the password. Then they click on forgot password link. Then probably an email need to be sent to them so that they can click on the link and reset the password. Or maybe think about Flipkart. When you place an order in Flipkart want to notify you through email about your order. So there can be many situations from your web application or from your software you want to send out an email. So what your developer need to do is they need an SMTP server if they want to send out an email from the application. Of course, they need to write the respective code for that. So using the code, they would connect with the SES SMTP server and relay the emails to the outside. So these are the main situation. You need to create your own SMTP server. Yeah. Cool. Give me 1 second. So that's pretty much about SMTP or SES service. The next one is RDS or the relational database services by AWS. So what is relational database services? Your MySQL database is called a relational database. Actually, it's not MySQL database that is called relational database. Relational database is type of databases which follow a table-like structure. For example, your MySQL. You created a MySQL database. Do you know how MySQL save the data inside a database? Basically, it would be in tables. It would be in tables. You would save the data inside a MySQL database. The table will have this structure, right? It will have, maybe think about, this is the driver table of the cab application that you manage. Then it will have the driver ID, driver name, the license number, phone number of the driver, email address of the driver. So like that, there are different attributes or columns that you would find in a table, and each row that you insert is actually a new driver detail, right? Each row in this table is a record. So first driver is Tom, second driver is Bob, third driver is Jerry. Like that, you can actually have multiple drivers to be inserted into this table. So any kind of databases which save data in this particular format are called a relational database. MySQL is an example. Just like MySQL, there are other databases like PostgreSQL, PostgreSQL. These are Oracle database, Microsoft SQL. There are different database that follow this relational database model. Okay. So let's talk about RDS. RDS is a managed service given by AWS that let you create a relational database in the cloud. Basically, so how did you set up your MySQL installation? What you did, you got yourself an EC2 machine. Then inside the EC2 machine, you install MySQL. Then after installing MySQL, you created a database. Then you set up the login credential for database. Then you from your WordPress, you connected to the database. That's what you did. So if you have to do these things, you are responsible for managing the database completely, right? It's your responsibility. You need to manage the database. You want to create a new database, or don't worry about the creating database part. Think about your database is running in a operating system, so you need to manage that operating system, right? Your EC2 machine, you need to manage. You are running Ubuntu operating system in the EC2 machine. Then you have some patches. Sometimes some security patch would come. Maybe the Ubuntu 16.4 has some issue. You need to update the patch to make sure that security is up to date. So you need to do those things. Sometimes MySQL would need some minor upgrades. The MySQL version that you installed in your server would need some minor updates, maybe in order to fix some security issues, or in order to fix some small issues that you face in the issues due to the MySQL source. So there are many operations that you need to perform. There are many things that you need to manage when you work with a your own MySQL installation. So what AWS tells you here is they will give you a platform. Basically, they will give you the platform as a service. Basically, if you want to create a database, you can just create a database in the cloud rather than creating your new EC2 machine, then setting up everything yourself. What you can do is you can request AWS for a database instance, maybe a MySQL database instance. Then AWS would give you a MySQL database instance to which you can connect to, but you cannot connect to the operating system where you are running this database. Basically, that is completely managed by AWS. You are just the user of that platform. Operating system is given to you as a service, and you simply connect to the database and do the database operation which you want. So probably you have your WordPress, and instead of your own MySQL database, you want RDS. What you can simply do is create a relational database in the cloud. AWS would provide you the relational database, but you will not get access to the operating system where this relational database is running. All you get is you can connect to the SQL prompt. You can run those SQL commands, creating databases, right? Creating new user, creating table, inserting new record into the database. All those database operation that you can perform inside the RDS that you purchase from AWS, but you don't have to manage the operating system. It is completely managed by AWS. What kind of issues will come generally in the environment of RDS and VPC? We will come to that. Actually, it is the same, whatever MySQL RDS that you are getting, they are actually same as your own MySQL database. There is no difference between them. Basically, in case of RDS, what AWS would do is they will take a EC2 machine. I mean, they will take a machine, a virtual machine. They will install MySQL in this operating system, and they would create a database for you. They would create a user for you. They would create a password for you. Then to you, you will get access to this database, not to the EC2 machine, not to the virtual machine. The virtual machine, or the platform in short, is managed completely by AWS. What you can do is, maybe using your WordPress or maybe from some of your Linux command line, you can connect to this database using SQL by running the MySQL command. You can connect to the particular database. If you want to create additional database, you can run the SQL queries. Any SQL queries you can run. You are a privileged user. You can create databases, you can create usage, create table, whatever database operation that you want to perform, you can perform. But the platform, AWS will take care. You don't need to monitor the machine. You don't need to worry about upgrading the MySQL software which is installed in the machine, or you don't need to worry about applying the security patches into your operating system. The complete operating system operations are managed by AWS. You can just focus on your database. That's a good thing with RDS. But many people prefer setting up their own MySQL than RDS due to various reasons. Actually, mainly the big companies who are generating a lot of business, they always prefer to have their own managed database environment due to various reasons. Sometimes, let's say something went wrong with RDS, you have no access to RDS to fix the problem, right? So due to these reasons, there are but people are using RDS. There are many companies are using RDS, but typically for small purposes. In a real production environment, uh, it is people have mixed opinion whether to use RDS or not. The main reason is a database is a critical part for any application. The database is critical part. Think about Flipkart. It is inside a database. They would save all the orders, all the customer details, everything. So they cannot afford to depend on a third party to manage their database. That is something people would not like to do. Some people would not really like to do. So due to the various reasons, there are still most of the startups would have their own database environment which they would be managing themselves. Okay, so we will see how you can create again, if you have a VPC, your RDS also can be added to the same VPC. Maybe you can create a private subnet. So let me ask you one question: which subnet you would want to place your RDS instance in a public subnet or private subnet? Generally, you would always prefer to save your database machines in a private subnet, right? The reason is nothing but there is no point. I mean, you don't really want to connect from outside world directly to the database. That is not required most of the time. It could be your WordPress machine or the web application or your Tomcat machines. These are the different machine which want to connect to the database, not anyone from the outside. So generally you would always prefer, but it's possible if you want that RDS instance to be created in a public subnet and it would be accessible by in the internet, right? It is possible. That's also possible, but you would always prefer the RDS or any database instances, even if it is your EC2 machine. You would always prefer it to be kept in a private subnet. So let's do that. Let us go ahead and create a RDS. So log into your AWS account. In RDS also they have a free tier. You can create a T2 micro RDS instance which is free. it comes under the 1 year free tier. You can create only one, of course. If you create more than one, it would be chargeable. But if you create only one, it is free. So yeah, I logged into my AWS account, click on services, then under the database, you can go to click on RDS, you would be taken to the relational database page. It is not only the MySQL database that you can create. There are Microsoft SQL, Oracle database. There are different types of relational databases out there in the world. Most of these type are supported in RDS. Okay. So click on instances on the left side, and I don't have any database instances. I am going to create a new database instance. Actually, this is nothing but a virtual machine that is getting created, just like your EC2 machine, right? Even your database instance also are actually a virtual machine which AWS would create for you. Only thing is that you won't be able to log into the virtual machine. You won't be able to log into the instance. You can only connect to the database. That's it. That is the difference between. So basically, RDS is a service in AWS where you are not allowed to connect to a operating system. You will not get access to the underlying operating system that is managed by AWS. Yeah. So when you try to click on launch DB instance, go ahead and click on launch DB instance. Over here, you have the option to choose your database. RDS support Amazon Aurora. This is nothing but a improved version of MySQL. Basically, AWS has taken the source code of MySQL, customized it in their way, and it has a better performance than MySQL. So if you want to go with Amazon Aurora, you can go with that. The same SQL command that you use in MySQL will work in Amazon Aurora also. There is no difference between MySQL and Amazon Aurora. Just like the way how you manage your MySQL database, you can manage MySQL Aurora database also, but it is extra costly. It is not free. It would charge you extra if you go with the option Amazon Aurora. So I am going with the option MySQL. You know what is MySQL? MySQL is one database technology. So is PostgreSQL, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL. All these are MariaDB. All these are examples of a relational database. And MariaDB is also actually nothing but MySQL. Basically, when MySQL was procured by Oracle, actually MySQL was developed as a open source, right? It was an open source earlier. Then later, the company was procured by Oracle. And after Oracle procured MySQL, what they did is the MySQL community, what they did back then is whatever the source code of MySQL was there at that point of time, it started to be known as MariaDB. Then again, MariaDB is a open source which is being contributed by people all over the world. So MySQL and MariaDB are almost same, but now it's the different people who is developing. They are developed as a different software, right? This was the old MySQL renamed to MariaDB. Okay. PostgreSQL is also a different software. It follows the relational database model, even Oracle database and Microsoft SQL database. These are the most popular different databases that follow relational database technology. So I'm going to select MySQL. I want to create a MySQL database, a MySQL instance. It's not a single database I'm creating. Actually, I'm creating a MySQL instance itself. What AWS would do is they would set up a VM for me, set up the MySQL for me, then let me connect to the SQL prompt of that VM. Okay, great. Yeah, click on next. It will ask you three options actually. So one option is you can production Amazon Aurora, production MySQL, development or testing MySQL. So basically, if you are in a production environment, The most recommended one is Amazon Aurora, but it is costly. I mean, you need to pay extra for MySQL Aurora. And also, if you choose the first option, you are going to get, okay, you are going to get MySQL Aurora. The second option, production MySQL, basically in this case, it is the same MySQL that you are going to get, but you will get multi-ASR deployment and provision IOPS. What it means is, when you create your database instance, what AWS would do is it would create two machines for you instead of one machine. Instead of creating two database instance, if I choose this option, multi-ASR deployment option, they will create two machines for me instead of one, and one would be the slave, the other will be the master. It is to the master machine I'm going to connect with the MySQL, then going to write my data into it, and the slave machine will replicate the data in real time. So this could be placed in one availability zone, the slave would be placed in the other availability zone. So in case if the master ever fails, automatically the slave will become the new master, and that will happen automatically. You don't really need to do anything from your side. So you can go with this option. If you are in a production environment, then you can make sure that even if the master fails, the automatically it will fail over to the slave. That would AWS will take care of that internally. So, and again, both these options are costly. You can always go with the last option, dev test MySQL. Typically you get a single database instance, just like you set up your EC2 machine and set up MySQL, right? Same way, AWS would set up an instance for you, and they will set up the MySQL for you over there. So now click on the next button. Then it will ask you the MySQL version and the license. Of course, it would be general public license. It's a free, MySQL Community Edition is a free software. And I can select the version. Let's say if I want a different version, I can choose from the drop down. And here I need to select the instance class, and remember, only T2 micro is free. Only T2 micro is free. Or you can even check on this box, then automatically you will get only the option which are eligible for free tier, right? If I check this option in the drop down, I would see only T2 micro. So that would be easy for you. But yeah, in my case, I am unchecking because I just want to show you the different options. Again, multi-ASR deployment. I talked about multi-ASR deployment. If I choose that option, what AWS would do is they would create two machines for me, one in one availability zone, other in the other availability zone. One will become the master, other will become the slave. If the master fails, automatically failover will happen to the slave. So those additional feature I will get if I go with this option, but it is very costly. So I am going with the no option. Storage, there are different options, and did we discuss about the different types of storage? General purpose is the normal SSD, which is very cheap. If you want higher speed for your hard disk, you can go with provision IOPS. Basically, you can specify how much speed you want for your hard disk. You can specify I want the hard disk to be able to perform 1,000 input output operations every second. So, but it's very costly. So go with the default one, general purpose. And 20 is the minimum size you need to have for your RDS database. So let it be 20. Here you can specify the name of your database instance. You can give it a name. Let's say MyDB instance. Master username, basically you need to provide a username and password using which you can connect to the SQL. I told you, right? I told you. Once you created the RDS, you will be able to connect to this RDS that you have created, but only to the SQL. You cannot connect to the operating system. You can only connect to the SQL. So what credential you are going to use to connect to the SQL? So you need to provide the username and password here, and this is the database instance name. Then click on next. It will ask you which VPC you want to put your machine in. I want the machine to be in this particular VPC. I have only one VPC, so choose that one. Which subnet I want to put the machine into. So subnet group, if I don't, it's not letting me choose it. What it means is automatically a new subnet would be created. Maybe I think I don't have a private subnet in my VPC. So basically I want to create a new subnet and the database instance to be added to that subnet. Publicly accessible. You have two options. If you want your database to be publicly accessible, you can put yes. What it means is AWS would give you a DNS name using which you can connect from the internet. Your RDS would become facing the internet, which you do not want. Of course, only your WordPress or only the machine inside the VPC to be able to connect to the RDS instance. So you choose the option no. You can choose which availability zone the machine is going to be placed in. You can choose the availability zone if you want. Otherwise, you can go with the option no preference. It would create in any availability zones. So security group, of course, I need to create a security for the RDS also. I need a security group. So I want to create a new security group. Here I need to specify the database name. So by default, AWS would create a database for me. Let's say I want to create a database called WPDB. Then AWS would create the instance and create a database WPDB in my database instance. Database port 3306, let it be. Right. If I want to schedule any backup, I can specify AWS will take the backups for me. They will back up my database and they will keep the backup for 7 days if I choose 7 days. So in my case, I don't want any backup to be taken. I'm disabling that option. If you want enhanced monitoring to be enabled, you can choose that. That is extra. It would be chargeable. So I don't want any enhanced monitoring. The default monitoring is good enough. And then should I let AWS to perform some minor database upgrade sometimes? The MySQL version that is getting installed in the database instance can get minor updates. So should I let AWS to do such kind of minor version update for me? I can let AWS, if I choose this box, then automatically whenever there is a minor upgrade in MySQL, AWS will do that for me. Okay. And even I can select at what time this maintenance would be performed. Select this option. Maybe I do not want any maintenance to be performed during the daytime when the traffic is very high on my website. A lot of people are browsing for my website. They are using my database. I do not want to perform any kind of maintenance activity during the daytime because there are many people browsing for my website. So I want this kind of maintenance to be happening only on the midnight or only some specified interval where I am available. You can schedule it. Start on Monday, right? Or right, and then at this time you need to start like that. If you select no preference, AWS would perform the maintenance whenever they want to. That's it. Now click on launch DB instance. It would create the database instance for you. Now click on all DB instance. You would be taken back to the instance page. You can see your database instance is now being created. It will take 2 seconds to 3 seconds. I mean 2-3 minutes it will take to create the database instance and getting the database created. And once it is created, I would be able to see the DNS name of this database I can connect to this database by from the WordPress or from the Linux prompt, which I will show you how to do that. Is my voice breaking? Okay, I just saw your message, Sunil. Is my voice breaking?
Sometime, but now it's fine.
Okay, okay. I don't know what happened. Yeah, we can integrate other database surveys to VPC. Yeah. Okay. So Sunil, I will come to that question. Yeah. So that's my database. Now click on the database instance. It is still being created. It is not ready yet. The status still says it is creating. If you come down, you can actually see the details of your database. You can see the name of your database. Where is that database instance? The DNS name. It is not, it didn't come yet. I need to wait. So in the meantime, what I would do is let the database get created. In the meantime, I will create a EC2 machine inside the same VPC so that I can connect from the EC2 machine to the database. So meantime, I'm going to create a new instance. Click on launch instance, then select Ubuntu 16.4. Yeah, this is the same VPC where I created my RDS instance in. So yeah, click on review and launch. I'm creating a machine in the same VPC as my RDS instance. From this machine, I will connect to MySQL, which is running on the RDS instance. Okay, so this is my machine. I am going to connect to this machine. Okay, I am connected. First, I will check if the MySQL command is working. It won't be working because I need to install some MySQL client package. So I'm installing this package in my EC2 machine. Basically, I want to connect from this EC2 machine to the RDS instance. So I want the MySQL command to be working inside this machine. Once it is working, then I can run the MySQL command to connect to the RDS instance. Now the MySQL command work. Okay, it's working. So of course it is giving me some error that we will see. So using this MySQL command from my EC2 machine, now I will connect to the RDS instance. This is my EC2 machine and I install the MySQL client here. Then my EC2 machine want to connect to the RDS instance that I have created. So what is the first thing I need to do? The security group. So by default, the port is 3306. MySQL port is 3306. Make a note. By default, MySQL listens on 3306. So I want to open the port in the security group. Basically, I want to allow my EC2 machine in the same VPC to be able to connect to the RDS instance by adding the rule in the security group. So that's what I'm going to do. So first let me check the status of the RDS, whether it got created or not. Okay, my database endpoint is ready. The DNS name of my database is ready. And as I told you, we selected the machine to be connected only from the VPC. The outside machine cannot connect to your database. So this DNS name can be connected only from the VPC, not from outside. So yes, my EC2 machine is a machine in the VPC. So from EC2 machine, I can connect. Before that, I must allow the port in the security group. Over here, you can already see some rule. The security group is here. Over here, you can actually see two rules is already added. Now, what I want to do is I want to add a new rule saying that allow my EC2 machine. What is my EC2 machine? This is the EC2 machine. The private IP of the EC2 machine I want to allow in the RDS database. So go to the security group. Hmm. Click on the security group. You would be taken to the security group page. Then click on the inbound button. There's already one rule which allow this IP. It's a default rule. I'm going to add one more rule. Selecting MySQL from the drop down, automatically the port will pop up 3306. Over here, I want to put the IP address of my public machine. /32 means it's a single IP. That means only this IP can connect to the RDS instance. That's what this security group rule means. Okay, great. This is the last thing which you needed to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to this RDS instance. Actually, I might need to disconnect earlier. Actually, my 4-month old is making lots of problems here. Yeah. So I'm going to connect to the RDS instance. MySQL-H, the database instance name, basically the endpoint name here. Username is nothing but whatever the username you had provided. Right? When you created the RDS database, you provided a username. And -p, the password, whatever password that you had provided. So where I am running this command from? I am running this command from the EC2 machine, which is in the same VPC as my RDS. This is my RDS. This is my EC2 machine. I already opened the port in the security group, the 3306 port. I already have opened so that my EC2 machine can connect to the RDS. Then I also install some MySQL client for testing the connection to set up the MySQL command. That is done. Then I am running this command. This is the command which will connect to this particular host, which is nothing but your RDS. You can see this name from the RDS page over here. This is the select your RDS instance. You can see the name of your RDS instance. That is the name you need to use in your EC2 machine to connect to the RDS instance. Username is Basil. It is nothing but whatever I had provided when I created the RDS instance. Then -p, then it is asking me to enter a password. I need to enter the same password whatever I had given when I set up the RDS. Password is wrong. Yeah, I am connected, right? Using the host name, username, and password, I am connected. Show databases, if you remember, you already mentioned the database name as WPDB. You would see the WPDB is already created. If you want to create new database, you can do that. Right? You want to create a new database, create database, then my CAB application or something, right? So like that, it's created. And so now you run the command show databases. You can see the CAB app database is created. You want to add a new user by running the grant privilege command. You can do that. So whatever database operation you can do, you get the administrative privilege on the SQL command prompt that you get, but you won't get access to the operating system. It's only to the SQL prompt that you can connect to this particular RDS instance. You can execute any database query. You have the admin rights, but not on the operating system. And okay, there is one more thing. So let's say AWS is managing the infrastructure for you, the database for you. And there can be a lot of custom settings in database that you want to put, right? That means when you set up MySQL, even though we haven't seen those things, there are many custom configuration that you want to set up. For example, you want to set up some cache settings for your database, how much cache should be used when you are running some SQL query, the result of that SQL query, where it is going to be cached, or for how long it is going to be cached. So there are lots of cache settings, and if somebody is executing some command, what is the timeout settings? Basically, the query did not complete within, 100 seconds, then it will automatically time out. So there can be different settings like timeout settings, cache settings, lot of settings that you want to configure inside your MySQL. They are called MySQL variables. So how you will make change to the MySQL variables without having access to the operating system? Actually, what AWS provides is there is something called parameter group. There is something called parameter group. Basically, you can create the parameter group as a service as well. This is the parameter group for the EC2 instance that I have created. So if you click on the parameter group, you would be taken to the parameters page where you can actually see the list of variables, right? There are many variables like auto commit is equal to 0 or 1. Right now it is 1, that means true. So like that, you can have actually a base directory. What is the base directory of MySQL? These are the different settings which you can provide into MySQL, and from this page you can actually customize them. Let's say I want right now auto commit is true, I want to make it false. Basically I want to modify some database settings. Select it, then click on edit parameters button. No, first click on edit parameters, then select whatever parameter that you want to change. Now it is true, that means 0, that means 1. I want to change it to 0, that means I want to disable auto commit. Auto commit is some settings in MySQL. Cannot modify. Okay, cannot modify default parameter group. Actually what you need to do is you need to create a new parameter group, then you need to assign this parameter group to your database. That's what you need to do. Yeah. So this is the default parameter group. You cannot modify that one. You need to create a new parameter group, then you can create your database using that parameter group. Automatically the settings would apply to your database. Then later you can modify that parameter group. The individual parameters can be modified to whatever settings that you want to set. So right, and RDS is being used a lot in testing or development environment a lot. Into production also, many companies uses RDS as their production database. It has proved to be a good database, but actually there are many reasons various companies who manages large databases, they prefer to have their own database setup. Apart from relying on RDS, they would prefer to have their own database setup, because there can be many things. There can be a network glitch that can result in the database replication process. There can be many problem that can happen with a database. So people would prefer to have full control on the database as well as the operating system where the database is running. So in such situations, most of the startups still have their own MySQL installation in their premises. What they would do, they would create a new EC2 machine, and they will set up the MySQL in that machine, use that machine for different purposes. So yeah. So that's pretty much about RDS. And what we will do is we will wind up here. Actually, I have some right. We have two more services to complete, and we have the command line. So tomorrow we will have 2 hours class. We need to complete three of them actually. CloudFront and CloudWatch, it wouldn't take much time. It's just very basic that we are covering. There is nothing inside and nothing detailed to be learned on this. They are pretty easy and straightforward services. So what I want you to do today is, yesterday I hope, okay, I did not give you the assignment on SMTP, right? What I want you to do is, so you have two assignments for today. Sorry about that. And I want you to, I don't know whether you completed this or not. I wanted you to register a new website, a .info website, which is cheap, and set up the DNS for your website. And for SMTP, this is what I want you to do. I will send you one link, right? PHP script to send email using SMTP authentication. Okay. So you need to install PHP peer. There is something that you need to install first. PHP peer. Okay. Okay. So what I want you to do is API header, but it's not working. Another thing is the whole walkthrough, login to user, etc. Yeah. This is what I want you to do. First, execute these commands. Basically, what you are doing here is, from a PHP script, you want to send out an email. That's what your developer would do, right? Whenever they want to send out an email from their application, they need to write the code. So assume you are a PHP developer. You don't really need to work on these things much, but I wanted you to understand how it works, right? So your intention is, you are going to write down a PHP script inside your var www.html folder. What the script does is, it would send out an email using the SES credential that you have created in AWS. Okay. So I will tell you what we need to do. You need to install Apache, of course, right? Install Apache, install PHP, install lib apache to mod PHP, of course, lib apache to mod PHP, right? Then you need to install PHP peer. So install these packages in your Ubuntu system first. You know what these are, right? You know what these are. PHP peer is actually a module in PHP using which you can install other PHP modules. That's what PHP peer is. So run this command first. It will install all these softwares. Then run this command, which will install SMTP within PHP. Basically, you are making your PHP capable of sending out email using SMTP. For that, you need to install these many modules into peer. So run this command peer install mail, then run the command peer install net smtp, then run the command peer install auth sasl, run this command peer install main mine. Install these many things, run all these commands one by one. Postfix you don't need to install, this is not required. I will send you the commands that you need to execute. First, set up Apache and everything. For that, this is the command. I am sending the commands in the chat. And then run this command peer install mail. These are different email modules. Which PHP would use? Net SMTP. Then what else? Auth SASL. So I send all the commands in the chat. These are the modules that you need to install. Then copy this script from this page. I am pasting a link in the chat. From this link, copy this particular script. This entire script you need to copy. Create a file inside var www.html. Paste this entire content into that file. Basically, you are creating a PHP script that can send out an email. That's what you are doing. So go to the var www.html. Create a file email.php or any name you can give, which end with a .php. It start with PHP. Then you paste this entire content here. Okay. Over here, you need to provide whatever username that you have created. Within SES, you created a username and password as the SMTP credential. It's not a mail ID, it is a username that you had created yesterday, right? Whatever username it is, provide that username here. This is where you need to provide the SMTP password. Basically, your PHP script will connect to your SES. When you execute this PHP script, this is your PHP script. When you execute this PHP script, it will connect to the SES. It will authenticate with the SES. So PHP script need to know the name of the SMTP host, which is nothing but the SES. You got it right. You go into the browser, log into AWS. Over here, you have the option to select SES from the menu. Select SES. Yeah, go to Simple Email Service SES and go to Ireland region. Of course, you don't have it in Mumbai. Go to SMTP settings. Go to SMTP settings. You can see the server name here. This is your SMTP server name. So inside this script, replace smtp.gmail.com with what? With whatever name that you see right here. And instead of SSL here, you use TLS. Instead of SSL, put TLS. That is the protocol which SES want to use. SMTP port 465. Yes, that's fine. You can leave it as 465, or you can use 25 or 587 also. Whatever is fine. To address whom you want to send out email, put the address here. From address. So when you send out an email, the recipient will get an email. Whoever you send the email to, this guy will receive the email. What from address he will see? To him, the email will appear to be coming from user@gmail.com. So you are setting a from header when you are sending out the email automatically. The from header of the email would become this. That what it means is once the email is received by the recipient, he will see the mail appear to be coming from this mail ID. Then you put whatever subject, put some subject, put some success message. Basically, this is the message which you will get if the script got executed, and this is something you can leave as it is. You don't need to put anything. Body, you can put something. Body, you can put something. Whatever mail body, you can put something. Maybe this is a test message which we want to send, or something you can put in the body. Other things you can leave it. It's not mandatory. That's all. That's all you need to do. So then save this particular file, and now try to browse this file from your browser. So from your home, from your laptop, you browse for the URL, the EC2 instance name /email.php. When you browse on your browser, you would get a message in your browser saying that email is successfully sent. That message you will see in the browser, and also you would see that the recipient would have received the email already. You go to the mailbox, maybe you put basil1987 at gmail.com in the to field, then he will receive the email. He must receive the email. I mean, if he is not getting the email, there is something wrong. That's what it means. And one thing that you must do is, yesterday I told you, if you are using the from address, you are appearing the email to be sent from this mail address, then you must verify this mail address with AWS. This must be a mail address that you own. That is something SCS want verification from you. They would want to make sure that this is a mail ID which you own. So what you need to do, you need to prove AWS that this is a mail ID which I own. How you would do that? You go to the SES page, click on email address, then you have the option to verify new email address. Click on the button, provide your mail ID, from which mail ID you want to send out the email. Provide the mail ID here, click on verify button, then they will send you an email asking you to verify the mail ID. Then it would be verified. So once the mail ID become verified, you would see a green color verified status here. Once your email become verified, then that mail ID, in this case basil1987 at gmail.com, that mail ID you can use in the from address field over here. So if you do these settings, email will be sent to the recipient. Make sure that email is received. So that is one assignment for today. You have one more. You have set up your WordPress database. How did you do that? You created a separate EC2 machine. Over there, you installed this MySQL. Then you created the database in the wp-config.php of your WordPress machine. You connected to that database which you set up from the scratch. Replace that database with RDS this time. Your same project that you have been doing. Only change is, yeah, this is one thing that you need to do. Not this link. I would send you this link. That's the correct one. I mean, I don't know if this one work or not, but yeah, the one which I am pasting now definitely works. So follow this link. Okay, and yeah, this also I want you to do. Configure SES to send. Maybe it's not. Basically, you can do one more thing. Your WordPress also want to send out email, right? Those who are interested, once you succeeded creating the test PHP script that can send out email. Next thing I want you, don't focus on any PHP coding, not required. I just want you to understand how this emailing works. That's it. Right? So the next thing which I want you to do is configure your WordPress to use SES credential for sending out email. Sometimes your WordPress website want to send out email to the users. Maybe when they are adding some command into your post, right? Or somebody is registering for a new account into your WordPress website, right? You want to create a SES. Basically, you want the WordPress to be sending out email to them through SES. So for that, what you need to do is you already know how to install a plugin in WordPress now, right? We have seen how to install a plugin in WordPress. Install this plugin in WordPress. What you can go into the WP admin dashboard, then go to the plugins page. Over here, search for configure SMTP plugin, then click on install button. It will get installed. Then you would be taken to the configure page where you can actually enter your SES credential there. The same credential that you have seen here, right? The username, password, SMTP host, port, the protocol name, to address, not to address. You cannot put to address because to address would be different. The from address, all these things you can put in this particular WordPress page once you install the plugin. So do that also. Then automatically WordPress would send out the email through SES. WordPress would start sending out the emails only through SES. So that's also, and also replace your MySQL instance with RDS. This is a optional thing. Just want to make sure that, right? This is optional, but do set up this PHP script that can send out email using SES. And yeah, replace MySQL instance with RDS instance. Basically, earlier you set up the MySQL manually. This time, create a RDS instance. Then your WordPress machines will connect to the RDS instance. So, yeah. Sorry, this was yesterday's assignment. Yesterday I forgot to give this assignment. Yeah. This one we can skip. Complete this one as well as this one. This PPT is available in the Google Drive, isn't it? It should be. Let me check.
Yeah, it's available. Basically.
It's available, right? It's available in the Google Drive. Yeah, so, any questions on this?
Basically, we are going to learn about cluster also because you told us to remind about this when we were learning VPC.
Cluster.
If it's a part of training, I'm just asking.
Mm, yeah, that's the Route 53 we are talking, right? Basically,
Yes.
how you can set how multiple infrastructure in different part of the globe, and if one is down, how the other can take in action. We can do that
Yes.
using Route 53 and health checks that we discussed yesterday.
Okay, yeah, yeah. And one question I have basically like we have set up a WordPress in one host, like in one instance, and if I want to migrate the updated WordPress in some other instance, what is the way we will do it?
You can simply copy the complete file, var www.html, and their folder you can copy to the
So it will
application.
work.
Mhm.
It will work.
That will work, but there can be one thing. I don't know whether you experienced this problem. When you browse for the load balancer name or maybe your website name, you will automatically redirect to a specific URL of one of your EC2 machine. Have
Yes.
you face that problem? That's why you asked this question. Yeah. The reason is when you install WordPress, you used a EC2 machine's URL to install the WordPress. First, you created your public machine. In the public machine, you set up the WordPress, and when you were installing the WordPress, that public machine URL is what you used to install the WordPress. Automatically, that URL will become set inside the WordPress database, not in the file. Inside the WordPress database, that URL will become set. That settings you can change actually. Once you uh, change site name in WordPress, search in Google, you can actually change the WordPress website name to either your load balancer name or your original website name by following this. So many of you may have faced this problem actually. If you did not use the load balancer URL to install WordPress, or in other words, if you used the EC2 machine URL to install WordPress, automatically that URL would become set as the site URL of WordPress, and that settings will go into the WordPress database. What it means is, if you try to browse the same WordPress website using the load balancer name also, automatically you will get redirected to the EC2 machine URL. In the browser, you would find the load balancer name getting redirected to the EC2 machine URL. So if that happens, this is what you need to do to fix it. Log into your WordPress admin, WP admin, go to the settings and general settings. Over here, you have the option to change the WordPress address. So change these two. If you already registered your website, use your website name. Otherwise, use your load balancer name. Then the URL will be updated. Then automatically once you clicked on save settings, you will get logged out. The reason is now you want to log in again to the WordPress using the load balancer URL. So this is the place. Come to the settings in the WP admin. Go to the general. Over here you can change both WordPress address, site address, both URL you change to your load balancer name if you haven't registered your own website, your registered website name if you already did that. So change the URL here. It should not be single individual EC2 machine. It should be either load balancer or your registered website. This link I will send you. Okay. Any questions? Yeah. Cool then. So let's wind up here. And tomorrow we will have 2 hour class. So please be prepared for that. All right. And yeah. See you tomorrow. Same time.